kick off here. So we have sitting with us today, Brandon Richards. I'm not even going to start with titles or what you are. So
I don't have a title.
Let's actually start into this because you are, this is our first time sitting down together ever. So excited to get to know you. And I think we're going to, as effectively as we can here, Brandon, I want to get to the core of you in the sense of I'm seeing, so just what I don't know how we got on Facebook together. That's how this podcast came together is just being in the industry and connected there. I'm seeing you fly planes. You have a pilot's license.
Yep.
You're rehabbing, selling properties, buying properties. You're super in, there's business investment stuff going on, like purchasing businesses, selling businesses.
Yeah.
Right. And there's, what is your podcast is Fearless
Pursuit of Freedom.
Pursuit of Freedom.
Yep.
And there's Operation Freedom.
Yep.
That's in your email signature.
Yep.
Like, we're gonna get into as much of this as we can. What's the why? What's the drive here?
I don't know. At the end of the day, I'm trying to figure out, what's my purpose in life.
Yeah.
And I find the most joy in helping. So that's why I originally started the podcast. To get the real estate knowledge out there, the investment side and the business side as an entrepreneur, and kind of squirrel-minded myself. I'll go from, evaluating businesses to evaluating a parcel for subdevelopment, but then in 2019, I went to Peru for the first time, and we went to an orphanage called the People Approved Project, and that's where I was like, oh, okay, this is where I want to go. With that. And then it took me a while because of all the legal mumbo jumbo with the IRS, but it took me a while to start Operation Freedom as a 501c3 and to get that fully tax exempt through the state and the IRS. So now we do Operation Freedom. So in 2019, we went to Peru, went to the girls' orphanage, and then we went to Nigeria the next year. That one was more, it had all kinds of things, but anyways, it really pushed me to do the Operation Freedom deal almost immediately after that. And then, so now Operation Freedom, we dig wells in Nigeria, and we do medical outreaches. We do, we provide food for communities, and I think we're starting to raise money for a school that needs supplies soon. So,
yeah. And you got a wife and 2 daughters, right?
Yeah. My oldest daughter is graduating high school in a couple months. She turns 18 in 4 days.
Okay.
Yeah, and my youngest daughter's 17. She just turned 17 in January. Yeah.
Gotcha. So I'm kind of getting this whole, like, you're just grabbing life by the horns situation in that, and I loved, and I was watching one of your, I was trying to do a little bit of research here, and one of the, I think one of the gentlemen that you had on your podcast, he had I think it was, I'm trying to remember exactly. I think I saw it in the frame where he had a little like sign or something on his wall where it was like, I'm going to slaughter it, but summarize it basically like work hard, earn well, give it away.
Yeah. Oh, that was Nathan Brooks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just had him on.
And so it's amazing to me. And I'm fascinated by, folks that get out of, it's almost like, for lack of a better term, like red pilling, right?
Yeah.
Not just like trade your time for money.
Right.
And focus on your retirement, your things. And sure, maybe you have a good bonus or something and get some excess, and hopefully you're thinking of others enough to maybe give some of that away.
Yeah.
But like this is, this entire circle for you, it seems like a way of life.
Yeah.
Right. When did that happen for you?
Getting to around people like this, similar?
Well, just deciding like, hey, I'm going to think outside the box. I'm going to create other avenues of income. I'm going to create, like, run into situations that you have no clue of and figure it out, to where also then deciding, which kind of then creates, I think, no, this is a multi-layered question.
Yeah.
I suffer doing those sometimes, so I apologize. But being able to then say, hey, this is all this bigger why of I can do more and I can be more for other people too.
Yeah. It's probably about when I was like 29 years old. So it's been, how old am I now? I'm 36. So about 7-8 years ago.
Right. 36 years.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah. So about in 29, my life kind of took a big turn I don't want to go into too many personal details, but got a divorce, and it was kind of a situation where every time I brought up my goals and aspirations of becoming an entrepreneur, they were kind of shut down by my ex-wife, and I was like, ugh. So, anyways, long story short, divorce, kids came with me, and I was like, okay, now it's my time to shine, and that's when I started going out. I did my first bodybuilding show. I was super uncomfortable to do that, and then I went into real estate almost immediately afterwards. Kind of a little bit backwards. Took, in my opinion, maybe the wrong way about it. I got my realtor license and all that jazz, but that's when almost immediately I went on my first out of country trip. Did the bodybuilding show. Started my first business. It was about age 29.
Yeah.
But I'd had all those things in my mind since I was a teenager, but really didn't have the. I don't know. I guess it goes back to my podcast, the fearless pursuit. It was always fear driven why I never pursued those things, and so it was about 29 where I was just like, okay, no more. I'm gonna die soon, and that may be tomorrow. And one of my favorite quotes is, when you're laying on your deathbed, what are you gonna wish you had done versus the regrets of things you did or didn't do. So, it just goes back to that. I don't want to be on my deathbed regretting things. And
yeah. And what has been, let's go through. So big journey in a lot of different aspects here. What has been, I guess if you could say one of the things that you had to learn, because I always thought, like when I started in this business, I started in this business 15 years ago, and I found it fascinating. I maybe said this on the podcast before, where I was looking at people's tax returns, right? And I started looking at these differently in the sense of I was like, wait. There's like one box that majority of everybody else is filling, but there's all these other boxes and schedules and things that the people that I saw that I wanted to mirror, they're filling other boxes, right? They're utilizing, like, there's so many different ways to create income and to create opportunity, and so when you started playing with these other ways to create income opportunity, do you have like an example of what was one of maybe the hardest things that you had to kind of learn? Because I saw it as kind of equations, right? People know the W-2 box is I trade time for money, and that is I can go to as much schooling or education or different things and experience to try and increase the value of that time. Right. But at the end of the day, you're not making money when you sleep. Yeah. Right. So is there an equation there, or is that a clear enough question to say what was maybe one of those opportunities where you had to learn and figure something out, but was rewarding on that back end?
A lot of people are scared to either join a mastermind or get a mentor for the money aspect, without realizing that, one, it's write-off. If you're self-employed and you go join a mastermind, it's a write-off. But they don't understand that the short-term expense, whether that's $5,000 or $45,000, that expense, granted you find the right person and group, pays off tenfold. So that was a struggle for me too. When I first started in real estate, I had no money, so I couldn't. So what did I do? I just went to all the networking events in town. And at the time I lived in Dallas, and there was one every single weekend. So we went to plenty of real estate events. And then I decided that I needed to be in a different circle. So I started forcing myself to go to the cheap masterminds and the more expensive masterminds. And then I was fortunate enough to be invited onto a cruise at one point with a group called Financial Friends. So there was no monetary acceptance fee into this group, but the cruise is expensive, and I had never been. This is back to where I went out of country for the first time. I went on this cruise with all these investors, and that was a game changer for me. Is not only did I see that the cruise was a write-off because we were all going there to learn. We had classes during the day, but then we were all traveling together. Nobody had to go call our boss to get there, and we all just kind of did what we wanted to do while we learned from everybody. And there was newbies there like me, and there was guys there with $100 million portfolios. So it was me getting outside of my comfort zone. I'm introverted, surprisingly enough, being a podcast host, but getting out of my comfort zone and surrounding myself with, I guess, like-minded people or people that I wanted to mirror in the future.
Yeah. And I find that because your podcast is free,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you have, how many episodes do you have on there?
75, 76, something like that. Yeah.
Of people who have done it, messed it up,
Yeah.
figured it out, still figuring it out,
Yeah.
right? And I think it's, a fear and a humility standpoint too, is that some people need to say, hey, like I can go back to, like there's that constant learning aspect that I think I don't know why people give that up sometimes.
Yeah.
That they maybe think they're tired, or that the K through 12 plus or college or bachelor's or master's or whatever they got, or even a PhD, that they think, at any point in time, if you want to say like, I'm done, like, man.
Yeah. Always be a student.
Yeah.
Always be a student. Especially as an entrepreneur. I mean, you never are the expert. There's always somebody that knows a little bit more. Yeah. So why not expand and always be a student, always learning.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and so what percentage of your effort now? So again, just getting to know you here on it. What percentage of your efforts are on just the real estate side of things versus like businesses?
Right now, most of it's in real estate. I'm in the background redoing my whole business right now.
Okay.
So, in the past, I had 7 VAs that were running my podcast and doing all my marketing and doing my cold calling, texting, ringing voicemail.
Yeah.
And I dialed that back. When I was in Texas, it was a lot going on. And granted, they were doing most of the work. It just became a lot for me. I never hired anybody internally. It was just me and my wife always, and it still is to this day.
Okay.
But I'm getting back into high volume transactions in land.
Okay.
So a little bit more, but anyways, there's a lot in the background. So most of my efforts are in real estate right now. I'd say it's a 90-10 split right now.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. And where in Texas were you?
Dallas, DFW.
Dallas. Okay. Very cool. When did you make the jump over to Flag, and why?
I grew up in Dallas.
Okay.
Most of my childhood there, from elementary through high school. And I had an uncle and a grandma that lived in Flagstaff at the time. So we'd come out here every single summer. Yeah. And I clearly like trees and mountains and outdoors. So as a kid, I was like, Flagstaff is where I want to go. Yeah. So at 18, moved out, went to Phoenix, spent a lot of time there, I think 8 years. And Flagstaff is expensive to live. So I had a great opportunity to buy a franchise when I was 25 in Flagstaff. So I bought A Quality Chem Dry as a carpet cleaning franchise. Okay. Barely got me by financially to live in Flagstaff. I lived in a 450 square foot house for 4 years. Yeah. And then actually after the divorce, went back to Texas. That's when all the real estate started. And then me and Ashley were financially sound. So we came back to Flagstaff. Yep. Just under 4 years ago. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. And what an amazing place. So Dallas specifically, I have some good friends there, and it's like, there's a ton of people and great minds down there. So I'm sure that when you're talking about the masterminding and learning from some of the, which is interesting, where I think that we get a lot of stigma in Flagstaff of like, it's expensive here, it's difficult to do here, but it's kind of the same equations, just at maybe different levels here and there. Right? Yeah. I don't know what your take on the opportunity here. It is pretty difficult. Specifically with real estate, it's difficult in the fact that back in Texas, I was buying houses for 30, 40, 80, 120,000. Yeah. And you can buy those all day. And my business is ran almost exclusively on private money. And so finding somebody with $100,000 is a little bit easier than finding somebody with $500,000 to loan on one project. So that's been a hurdle since I've been here, which is another reason I'm getting into land. But there's difficulties in every market, and here it just happens to be, our affordable housing. Like I'm selling manufactured homes for $420,000. That's a brand new 3,000 square foot hood in Texas. Yeah, square foot house in Texas. Yeah. But I'm not sure what other obstacles that would be relevant in the real estate world, because there clearly is opportunity. Yeah. Well, I guess we don't have nearly as amount of foreclosures. We have like a dozen a quarter,
Yeah.
Whereas in Texas, it was hundreds a quarter, depending on what county I was looking at.
Massively. I mean, I was actually down there with a buddy and we were just kind of talking through markets. I was like, hey man, here's the population of Coconino County. I think, what is it, like 150,000? Mm-hmm. And yeah, I know we pat ourselves on the back that it's the largest, like one of the largest geographically. I think it's maybe the second largest county geographically. Right? Yeah. That's 150,000 people. Whereas like, I think we were looking at like Cullen County alone is like 2 million people.
Yeah.
So it's just a different population.
Yeah. And Cullen County's small. It only encompasses like Plano, Richmond Hills.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's a small area.
Yeah.
I did a few houses in Collin County, but almost all my stuff was in Kaufman County, and it was just it was cheaper.
So if you had to say the Brandon Richards fearless steps, like 1, 2, 3 of getting started into like real estate investing, what does that look like?
Typically, when I get that question, it's just do it.
Okay, so number one is just do it.
Yeah, because like I don't know, I'll explain it. So like I went what I thought was the obvious route. I went to get my realtor license. I thought realtors were the moving key in investments. I didn't know anything about real estate. I quickly found out that wasn't the case. So I went from Century 21, just doing traditional transactions, to an investment broker that did what's called wholesaling. And so then I saw those moving parts, and I saw the people doing it, and I was scared to do it. I was scared to talk to sellers. I was scared to do marketing, and I didn't have the money to do all these things and cold calling and all that jazz. But then I found the people doing it, partnered on a couple deals. I was like, well, that was a much easier than I thought.
Yeah.
So then I did my first wholesale deal, made a significant amount of money, and I was like, what in the world? Why did it take me 18 months of whatever the hell I was doing to get into this? And then there was the same hurdle every step of the way. I did my first flip, and I was like, well, I made some pretty good money, and it was easy-ish. There's a lot to learn, especially since the biggest thing I'd ever built before was a doghouse. So completely gutting a house was new. But every step of the way has always been, well, why didn't I do that earlier? And that's what I mean by just doing it.
Yeah.
So like I'm in a mastermind called Investor Fuel.
Yeah.
And I'm in the cash flow arm of it, I guess, cash flow group. And they we dive into multifamily syndications, purchasing, and all that jazz. And what's funny is the guys in the other groups that are doing single family, they have hundreds of single family rentals in their portfolio, and then they're fearful of taking the step and going into multifamily. And so what I tell them is I was the same way, but I forced myself into it by doing direct mail marketing. And so I would mail apartments knowing that I was scared to have those conversations and to evaluate those types of deals, but it forced those incoming calls, and it forced me into multifamily. And so that's why I say just do it. Like if, let's say your aspirations are to have your first rental, start making offers.
Yeah.
Even if they're super low and you're never going to get them accepted, one, it may get accepted. But two, you get in the process of evaluating the properties and having those conversations with sellers and realtors, and eventually the right opportunity will arise.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, and I love that. So as far as just getting after it, I think it kind of ties right back into like you're saying is seek mentorship, chat with people who have done it, chat with people who are doing it. And I think another piece could add to this as well is kind of know your why.
Yeah.
On that as well, because I think a lot of people generally like the idea of like, man, my job, or trading time for money, like that kind of aspect. Like they think, and they probably look at, I'm just gonna say this, like look at guys doing that or girls doing that, and they're like, they're not smarter than me.
Yeah.
And the honest to goodness truth is, you're not, right?
Almost never are they smarter or have something.
Like, it's just a matter of like, from a toe-to-toe IQ standpoint, but to say, hey, is there wisdom in actually doing it though? Stepping off that ledge, risk. There's a risk filter that I think a lot of people suffer with, but knowing like, why do you want to do it? Do you like the idea of it, or are you willing to hustle and work and learn new things, let go of other things to where you can actually grow?
Yeah. HGTV made it sexy, and so everybody wants to do it. And so, to your point, what are your end goals? Do you actually want to do it? Is it do you need the short term or want the short term rental passive income?
Yeah.
Passive in quotations because it's giant pain in the butt. Or do you want that long term wealth? Because eventually you're going to have that thing paid off.
You're laughing. Probably tell me if you empathize with this. To where I was giving a presentation recently to a group of financial advisors and kind of making a joke on like out the gate, because I want, there's sometimes a conflict there, right? Where financial advisors are saying, hey, we want to keep assets under management versus knowing, hey, guys, your clients are going to buy homes. Wealthy people buy homes and real estate. It's oftentimes financial, oftentimes emotional, right? It doesn't have to have logic all the time, and they're going to do it anyways. So let's be friends. So we were kind of talking through, I was making a joke up front on how they could sell against it, just right out the gate on it. And so it was funny because I was wanting to kind of explain my my journey through real estate and buying homes and renovating homes. And I found a picture of my wife when we were, our latest project that we had visioned too hard, decided to DIY more to get to that vision. Yep. And I had this picture. We were going down evenings. This is a project in Sedona. And she's just like, it's the rehab mode where like, you're covered in like drywall and like, it just is not an attractive photo. Right, yeah. So I was like, gosh, I don't know if I can show this without like, because my wife will be mad because she's gorgeous. My wife is gorgeous. I'm sure you feel the same about yours. And so I was like, should I do it side by side? And then I went online and grabbed and I did one for myself as well. So it's all equal in the marriage. And I grabbed like a meth before and after photo, and they're pretty similar. So like the person, like the happy person before real estate investing, and then like in the project, like not a lot of people are ready for like, we're just kind of tying in that why. Like there's going to be moments where you're sitting there and like,
why am I doing this? Yeah.
Like I am literally handing out dollars to home repair stores, contractors and trades. I'm not getting any cent from this, and I'm covered in like garbage, and I just found more rat poop.
Yeah. You're bleeding money for months and months, and you're like, when is this going to stop? And hopefully this thing sells for what I think it's going to sell for.
Yeah.
Or rent if you're renovating it for a rental. But but those side by side pictures, people will love those, and you can see the pain, but also the joy in your eyes when you're covered in insulation or dust, or you got your gloves on because you just found another dead cat or rat. Yeah. So I've had plenty of those projects.
Sorry to jump in there. Too is would you also validate? I have another saying too that I've explained to people in just being in that renovation project. There's only two kinds of mice: the kinds that you know about in your house and the kinds you don't know about in your house. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah. If you don't want to know about them, don't take your drywall out because they're in there. It doesn't really matter where you live; they're in there. Yeah. But they make cool little cute houses, and they steal all your toys and socks, and you'll find them in the wall.
It's kind of, and again, it just plays into like kind of rip the Band-Aid off, right? It's, if you want the benefits of this, there's a non-glamorous aspect. There's a financial, like for lack of a better word, shit moment, right? That build a plan, talk to experts, so you're really not selling the farm, right? But yeah, I don't know. You just kind of have to dig in. Just do it. Summarize it well, I think.
Yeah. So there's certain people that'll say, contract everything out in the beginning, which I see that. But if you don't know anything about real estate and you don't know anything about remodeling, how do you know without doing? You can read enough books and you can watch enough YouTube videos, but without seeing certain aspects of the rehab project with your own eyes, you don't know when you're getting kicked around by the contractors. So our first project, we did almost everything ourselves. All of the demolition, almost all the drywall ourselves, all the flooring, all the painting. I replaced all the windows. Like everything was done by us except for major plumbing. The first one didn't have much electrical, but roofing, all the stuff that needs to be licensed. But without us being there literally day in and day out for 3 months straight, we wouldn't know what we know now. And so that's part of the journey, not only for yourself to make sure you've got what it takes to do it, but to make sure moving forward, when you do start hiring out most of it, that you know what they're saying is to be true. Like if they say to replace all of this carpet, it's $10,000. No, it's not. It's like $1.50 a foot. Come on. Yeah. So there's just things you learn along the way.
Yeah. No, there was this, probably appreciate the analogy. I had a conversation once with the guy that was a helicopter mechanic, and he was explaining that when they're working on things, that they have to know the braking strength of everything that they're putting in, like rotor and everything.
Yeah.
And as they get experience, though, that they understand, like they'd have to look that up, and that they'd understand with experience. Exactly. They didn't have to check as often anymore because they knew.
Yeah. And
I think that there's so much value, just like you're saying, when certain, especially right now in this market, and I'd go so far, I had the fortunate opportunity that from 2010 through current is where I was growing up in the industry and getting my feet wet in real estate acquisition and rental investment and everything. And I do say in full honesty to anyone, like the last, like 2010 to 2020 was probably the easiest decade ever to get into that. And you didn't have to be that smart.
Right.
The margins were there. I mean, I was the preferred lender on certain buildings, and they're just sitting there. I want like certain projects here in town that you could be cash flowing like instantly. I'm talking like $500 to $1,000 cash flow out the gate instantly on things. And it's like, you have to be a lot smarter now.
Yeah.
And knowing, and at least connecting with people that can help you on those pieces to know, like, hey, deals can be made or broken in some of these little details like you're talking about, where if someone says, nope, GC says this is it, you're like, there's not skin on that bone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And a lot of GCs will,
What's the skin?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of GCs, especially in our area right now, are so busy that they can give you a higher bid than what is normal. But, you provide the value and the volume, then you can eventually work your way down. But, right now, up to early 22-ish, everything was easy peasy. Everybody was making money hand over fist. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But now, almost every asset class is feeling some sort of pain. And right now, primarily it's in the commercial space, multifamily space, because people buying properties at 3, 4, or 5% cap rates with bridge loans, with 3 to 5 year bridge loans, are getting bent over right now pretty hard. I know a lot of people that are losing massive multi-million-dollar portfolios because they didn't anticipate their genius strategy, of buying A-class, B-class properties at 4% would crumble when the interest rates skyrocketed. Because now you can't get a $20 million loan for less than, now it's like 7.5%. But before, I mean, people were getting 9% loans on these huge multifamily properties, and they're just getting everything handed to them right now.
Yeah. Big picture strategy on a lot of that.
Yeah.
Where, I guess if you had to say forward, so land's interesting right now. What else would you say is opportunity? Especially maybe for people looking to get their feet wet for the first time kind of thing, or, your beginners.
Well, deals are always around, but better deals are coming.
Yeah.
In every asset class, single family, everything. I think the move in single family right now would be being able to take over properties creatively, and utilizing the low interest payments, low interest mortgages that people have. So they're learning a subject to, doing an owner finance wrap, helping somebody with a novation, or in multifamily, the deals are coming. The painful part is the process is going to be long because everybody's defaulting, and so there's going to be a lot of short sales. There's going to be a lot of loan assumptions, and but yeah, for me, land is where I'm heading for headache purposes primarily.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Well, and so talk to me about. I've done some research on the subject to piece. Have you seen any of those in Flagstaff?
No.
It seems kind of like, and I should be very, not very ignorant, but it's a matter of, so for those listening, check it out and let me know if I'm describing this properly, is because they're taking a look at the note and the deed separately, right? And basically saying, no, we're going to take over the property, right? And take over payments.
Yep.
And and transfer title, or
title does not transfer.
Title
it
does not
stays
transfer.
In their name, the mortgage. So, transparency, I haven't done one. I've wholesaled one.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay.
Let me think about it. So subject to, you're taking the the property over subject to the existing mortgage.
Yep.
And so typically the professionals that are doing it in volume are bringing those mortgages over to a servicing company. So they're taking in, either you're renting it out or owner financing out, and that's paid to a servicing company, and then that's paid to the original mortgage. There's some nuances there that I'm not 100% familiar with, but the paperwork there is quite stringent, and if not done properly, can screw everybody involved.
Yeah.
But namely the seller, which they're in a bad situation. Typically, they're almost always in a foreclosure situation where
Gotcha.
they're probably going to lose the house anyways. So any option's better than their current option, but you got to do it right.
Yeah.
You know, you don't get in the real estate to go screwing people over.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And you know, I have seen a client do, and it worked out when stars line up. It's not an everyday deal, but like assumptions.
Yeah.
Assumptions are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And so that's taking over someone's mortgage, and that's totally legit through up and up on the servicing, on the mortgage and everything, and had a client take over like a 2 3/4 interest rate.
Yeah. Because they're requalifying. They're not taking it subject to that mortgage.
Correct. Yeah. And the title, everything's transferred. It's clean. Client washes their hands. I mean, there's all sorts of even nitty gritty on what type of loan they had and how the assumption ties in and everything. But yeah, so but it's a matter of asking people, right? You have more experience than I do in some of that, and or a lot of that, and just I find that people aren't asking the questions.
Yeah, so. And that'd be a big strategy moving forward for buyers agents.
Yeah,
is just asking before you make an offer. Asking, is that loan assumable?
Yep.
Because otherwise, you can get your nice 2 and something% loan, or what is it right now? 6.5, maybe 7.
Yeah. Yep. In the mid to high 6s.
Yeah. So just ask the questions, even if you don't know. Ask the questions and then figure it out. Talk to their mortgage provider. Talk to your mortgage professional, and just figure it out.
Yeah. No, I love it. Asking the right questions. Well, in circling around then, so the business, you're all excited about that, and then the charity aspect. Mm-hmm. So how is that just something that you're channeling your own means and resources to, or are you looking to grow that base and funding for that?
Both. So being an introverted, it's hard for me to get out there and really, because the guys that I know that are doing it well, they're traveling around the country and speaking, and I don't know that I'll be able to ever do that. Yeah. And so I do a lot of my raising within my sphere, and that's social media. Yep. And it hasn't been sufficient thus far to fund a lot of the projects, and some things have been delayed or not done at all. Because like the standard well to be dug is about $500 US, and these wells are dug by hand. So we hire the laborers, we buy the concrete, and all the people who do that. Yeah. But I don't like digging a well without having a big grand opening ceremony per se, because the well is needed because they need clean water. And the clean water is obviously for a healthy body. But when they're drinking these bad water out of the creeks and the standing water, they develop a lot of internal ailments, worms, all kinds of stuff. And so when we dedicate this well to them, we want to be able to provide aid. And so then now we're hiring nurses, and we're giving out certain medications that get the worms out, and there's a lot of illnesses we're trying to treat there. But but they also have issues with food. It's Africa. So, and specifically where we are in the plateau state of Jos, Jos, Nigeria is huge, and the things you see in documentaries are pretty true, but then the communities outside of these major cities are even worse off because they don't have the means to get into town to buy certain things. And so we're providing beans, rices, and all the basic carbohydrate staples. And depending on the community and their religion, we're providing some sort of meat sometimes. Okay. Either chicken or beef.
Gotcha.
For reference, we went there and we went to an orphanage way out in the middle of nowhere, and they get a piece of meat this big once a year, and that's on their birthday. So,
no joke.
Yeah. So when I'm doing these food dedications, I like to provide meat because their source of protein is from beans and potatoes, and they very, very rarely get some form of meat.
So how did you get connected with this specific area of Africa with those specific needs? Like, what was the education, like
Facebook
learning curve on that? Oh,
yeah.
Facebook, really?
Yeah. So we started going to Peru a couple times. So my first experience was in Peru. I got invited to a, let me get this out of the way. So
You're good.
we were invited on a motorcycle trip. The guy, yearly, he hosts motorcycle trips, and your fee to get on the trip is, I don't know what it is now, but I think it was like $2,500, and that $2,500 covers the bike rental and all the other stuff, but it pays for one kid to get through school for a year.
Okay.
Kid. So,
Yeah.
did
It's
that
a
a couple.
win-win.
Yeah, so I got to go do some cool stuff. Got to go, we went riding dirt bikes over the Andes at 18,000 feet, saw some volcanoes and froze our butts off. And so we got to see the culture and the experience, but then we knew that the money was going to this orphanage. And then the next year I went out there, then I went to go see the orphanage itself. And posting all this on Facebook, the opportunity arose. And I knew a guy through my dad's work that went to Nigeria. And I told Ashley, I was like, if he ever reaches out and he wants us to go to Nigeria, I'm not second guessing it. We're going to Nigeria.
Yeah.
Even though it's in one of the red and yellow areas for, the U.S. government says, don't go to Nigeria.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
that's all BS.
Okay.
So we did have to get certain vaccinations before.
Sure.
Ashley knows them better. Yellow fever, something else. But
Sure.
when we went there, we were fully expecting to feel in some form of danger the whole time.
Yeah.
But it was the sense of community, and with every country we've ever been to, sense of community there was just like amazing.
That's awesome.
There are dangers. So,
yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So social media, and that's how we got connected with them. It was We Go Nigeria, and so there was a local group in Rockwall, Texas, that through their church joined another organization that was doing water filters out there.
Okay.
And that's how we went out there, and that's when I was like, oh, they need wells. There's a lot of hurdles with both the wells and the filters. Like when you give out the filters, most families, their first clog of the filters, they chunk it because they weren't provided the right maintenance schedule or follow-up team. And so
I gotcha.
that particular group developed a team of guys that every month would go back out to that community and show them, and be like, well, first off, are you still using your filter?
Yeah.
Here's how you clean it. Because those filters will last 30 years if maintained properly.
Gotcha.
But anyways, I went off on a tangent. It was social media.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love that it's a matter of, and it sounds like, Brandon, and getting to know you a little bit, that it's a matter of just constant learning and discovery and chasing things that you love and get excited about. And I think I love hearing that in the sense of like, it's hopefully it's kind of that same skill set when you're saying, hey, we want to help. And there's a lot of folks that will say, hey, sure, we'll donate or give some money, but it's like, what really helps is like getting out there doing wells and filters. Well, no, what really helps is then actually maintaining that, right? Yeah. Continuing to actually have impact versus, okay, I cut a check once and feel good about it.
The checks definitely help though, because these are expensive.
Yeah. No, not to dissuade.
Yeah. All in all, each time we dedicate a well, depending on the size of the community and how much medicine and food we got to buy, it's between $1,200 and $1,900.
Yeah.
But a couple grand to us is not a whole lot of money, but that changes the lives of hundreds of people in that community.
Oh, yeah.
So, so send your money. But
okay.
It does help.
Yeah.
But no. There's things that I'm learning along the way that you can't just, I'm reading a book called The White Man's Burden right now.
Okay.
And its basis is there's a lot of people that want to do good, but in fact, the way that the Western civilization has been doing it is, in a sense, wrong, because simply writing the check doesn't do it. You got to empower the locals to be able to provide for themselves. Otherwise, you're always handing out money, which doesn't solve the problem.
Well, yeah, it's that teach a man to fish, right?
Exactly.
Just giving a fish, which I find that, and this is one of the biggest things. I think we lie to ourselves a lot. Oh, yeah. And one of those things that we lie to ourselves about too. And when I talk about, and this is probably all tied in, so not to jump on like a completely different tangent, but if we want our children, our posterity to have empathy, to understand the cost of the real world, because we don't, let's be honest, like when our kids wake up and the heater's on and they get in a car to go to a school, to have like the level of privilege that we live in here in the United States is like, it's
crazy.
Never been better, right? Which is fantastic on so many fronts, but we detach from a reality of humanity there. And so I think just, again, if we're as parents just cutting checks or we're going to a soup kitchen or something, and we're not saying, hey, we're going to go, we're going to do, we're going to put our effort behind this, and we're going to actually take our kids along when, we're appropriate, right? That we're going to also show that we're not just check equity in that, but we're sweat equity in wanting to improve and better people's lives. Like if you want your kid to like not feel entitled and get off that iPad, that's one good way to do it.
Right. Yeah, no. Yeah, so like March 7th, we're going to Peru, bring the kids this time.
I love it.
My youngest daughter, she's scared of flying, so this is a huge hurdle for her.
Yeah.
But she's overcoming that because she has seen all the times that we've been out there and have seen the experiences that we've been through.
Yeah.
And but namely, she's got a huge heart and she wants to help, so she's learned Spanish, and so we're going to do the whole thing. But
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, going there and seeing it firsthand versus a YouTube documentary or National Geographic, because there's a lot of things that these documentaries don't show you. And unfortunately, being in the United States, a lot of the things that we read and view is fear driven. It's, these Niger is a little bit different, but a lot of people think that traveling to these countries is extremely dangerous for civil unrest, militias, or like just petty theft, but I've been to I don't know how many countries now, and I have never once felt unsafe. And in fact, almost always, I would rather be in the slums of Peru or Cambodia or Vietnam than be in South Dallas.
Oh, for sure. Well, I love, and it's we have to understand there's a big wide world out there, and that if you understand any content you're being fed, there's a motivation behind it, right? And so it was we were sitting in an Uber, and I've lived outside the country. I've spent quite a bit of time outside the country in various spots, and so I'm fairly kind of comfortable in that situation. My wife's still getting comfortable with that in certain in international travel, and we were in an Uber in Mexico. And she asked and I was like, don't ask him, but she wanted to ask the Uber driver. She's like, are we safe in this neighborhood? Are we safe here? And he goes, am I safe in an American school? Right. And it's like, touche, bro. He's obviously got that line down pat, because it's like, if you looked at that, you're like, oh man, everywhere is blown up in America, and you can look at the worst things happening in massive countries, and it's like, well, that's not the representation of the people. Yeah. Generally speaking, here and most places, that people are living their best lives just like you and me.
Yeah. Yeah, most countries, like I said, Nigeria is a bit of an exception. In for example, one of the communities that we went to, and we did the medical and the food, or medical and the water filters, the week after, a group, maybe I won't say the group. Anyways, another group that typically has religious and other feuds with the locals came in and all but decimated the community. Oh no! Unfortunately, and again, it's all religion based, kind of, sort of. There's some nuances in the back end, but outside of certain areas like that, the world is completely safe. I would much rather, and this is my wife and I's goal, is actually when the girls finally get off to college and they're out, we're moving to Peru to go live at this orphanage for 6 to 12 months.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then deciding where we want to go next.
Yeah.
But, just don't believe what you see in the media. It's just, like I said, when we went to Nigeria, there was a yellow warning saying, don't travel to Nigeria. And we're like, at that time we were like, we don't really believe anything the government puts out. But going there, we're like, what's the issue? Like, nobody threatened us. Sure, the local police force is driving around with AKs and stuff you don't typically see here in the U.S., but so does Mexico.
Yeah.
But never at any one point did we feel unsafe.
Yeah. I love it. Be smart. Do your research. Right. Well, Brandon, I told you time flies in this. So this was awesome. We're going to have to do a follow-up at some point and find out how the land's going. Yeah. But any other last words or anything else you want to share with us?
just don't be afraid to do it.
That
That was my biggest hurdle in the beginning. It took me probably 18 months of what do they call that? Analysis paralysis. I was just reading and YouTubing and going on Bigger Pockets and all these things and always trying to learn but never actually doing. And it wasn't until I forced myself to do the marketing and all the other things that I was like, oh, well, that wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get rid of the excuses.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, Brandon.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.